Coach, now that you've had time to go back and look at the film of the South Carolina game, obviously the points in the paint that they got sticks out and the post defense. When you look back at the film, what stood out to you is why things were so easy for them at times in the post?
A bunch of things did. Overall, by numbers, sheer numbers, it was a very poor performance by us defensively in terms of efficiency. There's a lot that goes into that that comes out on the other side. That was really disappointing. Going into the game, we felt really good about our plan. We felt good about our practices, but not to shy away from your question, but I have to give them a lot of credit. Mac and the freshman played really, really well. 17 for 21 with 19 rebounds between them, and that's a pretty dominating performance. From the start of 4 and 5, and they had a lot to do with it. Boyles made some big time moves and finishes, and Mac showed an ability to not just be a pick and pop guy, to be able to maneuver a little bit going towards the basket and put our defense in some awkward situations at times. But you can't place all the blame on our 4s and 5s. I've said over and over that our defense is not about certain matchups. There's times where we want them to dominate that matchup, but overall, it's everybody's involved in guarding the ball and having responsibilities depending on what's going on. And we just didn't do a very good job against South Carolina, in particular. Those two guys.
Go ahead, Justin.
Chris, you mentioned a bunch of times this year about how you guys treat every game, like it's the Super Bowl, like it's your biggest game. During this time of year when after Thursday nothing is guaranteed, does that make it easier for you to push that point across to these guys?
I don't know. Time will tell. But our approach, doesn't change this week. I mean, I don't want people out there, listening to this and saying, why wouldn't they be all in? Why wouldn't they be more? And I promise you, because that's kind of what we do. I mean, you can't be more intense about preparing. You can't watch, more video. We do, in my opinion, our due diligence every single time, regardless of the opponent, and we have a routine that we go through, and it's a little bit different for each opponent depending on who's the lead scout or not, and I have my own little routine to catch up from game to game as the head coach. But certainly it's everybody understands that. Most of these kids have played in conference tournaments, and it's just different. The intensity is different. What you're playing for, is different, and it's a survive and advance or win and go home. And nobody wants to do that. Everybody wants to stay as long as possible. And what you'll see is just hyper intense basketball games from everybody that's down there. And hopefully, we're going to be one of those teams that figures out ways to win games.
Back to the cameras and John, and then we'll go down here to Danny P. and Paul.
Hey, Chris. After the South Carolina game, Cam was talking about, we asked him about, if the team kind of had a mindset of, okay, like if we won against South Carolina, then our resume would have been a lot more boosted for the NCAA tournament. I guess kind of going into the SEC, is there any kind of benchmark? Because I know obviously y'all are very, you know a lot about net and where you stand currently for the tournament and all that stuff. Is there any conversations about that really of, okay, like if we beat LSU, we get in? I know you guys don't control that, but I don't know how much that's talked about in the locker room, maybe as bulletin board material or anything like that.
I get asked that a lot, about what I think of where we're at and what we need. And I see other coaches, get in these environments and have platforms and, vouch for their team and go, drill down on why they should be included in the NCAA tournament. And I've got to believe that the committee members don't pay any mind to that. I don't think they really care what an individual coach thinks about his team and why it should be included. If that was part of the process, then I think we'd all have some sort of avenue to go through to, you know, preach our case, if you will. So my answer is always the same, that, you know, how I feel about our team and why we should be included right now or with whatever scenario comes next, you know, is irrelevant in my opinion. You know, my focus probably needs to be more on, you know, how do I get my team better, can I prepare them better, rather than spending a bunch of time on talking about, you know, why we should be in and comparing myself and our team's resume to others. You know, these folks in that room obviously are there for a reason, and they've got all the tools that, you know, they need at their disposal. And I know they've already, you know, for weeks been working on, you know, teams and evaluating teams, and I know the process fairly well. And at the end of the day, you know, we're just trying to win the next game and trying to put ourselves in the best position possible.
Danny P, the coach, is right.
Coach, we've all seen Tolu play for a very long time now, and we've asked you about him several times. So what does it say about him after missing 12 games with his foot injury to come back and get to this status of first team All-SEC and first team All-American once again?
Yeah, I'm happy for him. You never know how someone will respond to an injury, and I've said this, you know, when he came back, you know, fortunately, he's been there, done that, and so he knows what it takes to rehab and do his time, because it's time consuming to come back from that serious of an injury and those type of surgeries, and it's no fun. And you're doing it, you know, in the dark, if you will, when nobody's watching, nobody's cheering for you. And it's a long process, and you just never know. And because of his experience, because of his person, you know, he did it like a rock star, and he listened and followed directions, and fortunately came out the other side in a really good spot and was able to, you know, dive in fairly quickly and get back to his form. Only he knows, you know, how he feels, but I think it's a great testament to Tolu Smith as a competitor, as I've talked about many times. His work ethic is second to none. In 31 years I've coached, I can't say anybody's worked any harder than Tolu in the 2 years that I've been around him. And as a coach, you know, that's the type of young people that you want to be around. You know, sometimes, you know, we feel like if this kid would just dedicate himself a little bit more, there'd be a bigger horizon for him, and that's not the case with Tolu. You never say that about him. He lives in the gym. He's all about the program and the team, and he deserves, you know, all the accolades that he receives.
Got time